Hi, this is James Manning. I wanted to do a recording to show how to create a dry utility run. This is for telephone that I'll be doing. And we got some revisions in kind of late in the game, so we're trying to get this stuff modeled. And so this is sort of with everything modeled, and we're putting in a new utility to see if there's conflicts or whatever. Now, I actually already did this before I recorded this, and I thought it might be useful to show kind of the workflow on this. So here's what the final product looks like. It's this green line right in here, and if I zoom in close on that, you can see that it's got a width. It's actually a rectangle that's been swept along a path. So let me show how that works. So I'm going to erase it out, get rid of that vault. Okay, so now we've got kind of a blank slate. So the first thing I need to do is get my horizontal alignment, and I got a PDF from the consultant, converted that to TIFF, and actually I brought it in and made a world file for it already. So I'm not going to waste time showing that, but I just use the align command to line up stations. It's no big deal. But let me go ahead and do that. So I go HA Tools and Image. It's for image using world file. And engineering project. Okay, it should be down here at the bottom. And I think it's this one here. Okay, so it comes in on the current layer Tele. I'm gonna switch that. I'm just gonna make a layer called L2, change the layer, and set the draw order to the back. Okay. Alright, so if we look on here, we have a raster image that shows an alignment for this telephone. And I'm not taking the time right now to be exact with these arcs. They actually do give me geometric data on them, but for what we're doing, it's plenty fine to just be nice and clean with what we do. So I want to go to layer Tele. That's my horizontal, the backbone of this utility is created like that. So I'm going to make the horizontal alignment for that just by tracing it, and I'm going to connect from here, go up to about right there. Pull an arc off that, up to there. Now I'm going to go up to this vault. Let's pull a straight line through that, go back to arc, and you can see that their drawings are nice. This image isn't stretched anything, it came straight from an electronic PDF. So this alignment is merging back in with this line over here, this joint trench. So I only need to draw it to right about there. Okay, so now I've got a polyline. So the tools that we have want exactly that as a starting point. So I'm going to go to our 3D alignment tool, and it's starting up its alignments database. This is for what I call published alignments, but what we're doing right now is the data is only going to be contained by this polyline, as you'll see. So it's asking me to pick a polyline, right? If I pick one that's not a 3D poly with the smart data on it, it knows I want to make a new one. So it says, okay, making new alignment. Now it says pick point. So it wants elevation points. So I could start picking elevations in here, but actually there's a better way of doing this. What I have pulled in is a Civil 3D surface called Phase 2 Road, and I have that set in my control center as surface number 1 because I have a particular tool made just for dry utilities, or anything that's a standard cover. It takes a 2D polyline and converts it into what I call a 3D alignment, which is basically a smart polyline. But it'll use the surface number 1, and it'll ask me a cover value, and then it'll automatically cut the surface to get the profile for that, weed it using a 0.02 criteria on the vertical, which actually works out quite nicely. So it weeds it and gives me a 3D alignment with the profile in place. So I just click the button, enter cover. We're at 30 inches, so it's 2.5, and pick the polyline. I'm going to grab this green guy. Okay, and I'm actually going to detach this image after I draw my vault. I happen to know that this vault is 6 by 12, but I also offset offset it by 6 inches to get the wall thickness. So, and I'm just eyeballing this because for modeling purposes, you know, this is plenty fine. I don't do this when I have things like waterline alignments and street alignments. You know, we design those, but when I'm getting info from the outside, all they give me is a PDF. Sorry, I'm not going to take the time to enter Kogo data for nothing. So offset 0.5 to get my outside wall. So I'm just going to model this as a box to the outside. We have a tool for doing vaults here. This one is draws a vault whose top is at the surface, and it'll ask me the height here. So it says pick item to establish layer, and I actually want to put this on telephone solids layer. Tell you what, I'm going to come back to this because usually what I do is I pick my pipe or my conduit edge. I didn't do that here. So let me pick on this guy, which is our 3D alignment, which is 3 feet or 2.5 feet of cover. Okay, I'll go into properties on this, and I'll say pipe conduit, item is a conduit bank, and I know that it's 0.92 feet high and 1.5 feet wide. Okay, and it sweeps a rectangle along this, and it makes that previous backbone line that I had as the top of the conduit, because that's usually how we do dry utils, is with a cover criteria. Water lines and everything else is it's invert, storm drain and so on, but dry utilities, it does it from the top. Anyway, so now here's this vault. So I'm going to use the draw vault tool, and I'm going to pick this edge. First box side, bing, bing, vault height 7 feet, and there it is. So let's detach our image because we don't need this anymore, and let's take a look at what we got. I'm gonna unload this file here. It's a 2D file. This is our surface actually. Here you can see the boundary on it. So now if I 3D orbit this thing, give it a second. This is all in wireframe. You can see the 2D stuff kind of separating out. I'll go ahead and unload that. Try that again. X unload. Grab it. Let me pause this here. Okay, continuing on. So we're in 3D orbit here. And here's the new item that I did. And you can see it merges back in with this joint trench over here. I'll go ahead and turn the view to conceptual. And you can see there's a lot of utilities out here. And even the appurtenances for air vacs and blow-offs have been modeled out here. Here's an air vac can, cathodic test station. We use this as our, they call them furniture maps or strip maps, to make sure everything fits. So we get the details in there. There's a couple problems on this. First of all, this connection, that's no good. 30 inches of cover did not connect us with our line, which is actually coming through a bridge here. So that's a problem. The other thing is, if you notice in here, we've got a funny kink. Wherever we hit there's actually a median here, so the surface follows that median. So when you get a 30-inch cover criteria, it just follows that right up. Well, that's not reality. Nobody builds like that. You get the same thing on this side over here where the curve is on the side. So I'm going to edit those out and watch how this works here. So I'm going to run my edit tool. And what I want to do is delete out the, you can see there's two PVIs, this line, this guy, and this guy. I want to delete out the one that's higher, and that's actually on the inside. So and the picks have to be as if I'm doing it in 2D, so I got to snap when I'm picking. I can't get sloppy with my picks. Okay, so I have my options down here. One of them is delete a PVI, so I'm going to say D for delete, and I'm going to snap right there, and you can see that it actually in plan view searches for the closest PVI. In 3D it looks like it's going to the left, but in plan view it's doing that. So I say yes, I want to delete that, and I want to delete another one over here. I'm just going to pick on the backbone, and it'll find the next one over, and I'll hit return to finish, and you can see that it took away those, and now it goes straight through. So that little area is healed. Now over here I want to do the same thing. I want to get rid of this upper PVI. So I'm going to edit this guy, say delete, snap nearest here. It's going to find that upper one. And notice how it's snapped down in plan view to point to where that item was as if it was in 2D. So that's what that line was. So when you're editing in 3D, you got to be a little bit careful, but it actually works quite nicely because you have nice visual cues on what's going on. Okay, over here we're going to connect this up. And remember what this is the profile of this conduit here is marked by these little points here. If we look at it in plan view, there's actually a PVI here, here, or a grade break, if you will. These aren't vertical curves, but they could be. Okay, so this guy here needs to get set to that guy. So one of the neat things I could do is edit this guy, and I'm just going to actually delete this point out. So I'll say delete, snap on that backbone. Yep. And then I want to add a new point, and I'm actually going to snap to the end of this backbone. That's pretty good. Now it says pick text or enter elevation, or I can hit S to switch to 3D pick mode. So now it's going to let me pick on something, and it'll automatically use that elevation from the point that I pick. Oh, look at this, vertical curve length 0, and then return to finish. Okay, and that didn't work. Why did that not work? Let's see what I did there. Or did it work? No, it did work. It just looks like it didn't in 3D from the top. I mean, when you're picking nearest on stuff, you can get little issues going on. It's okay that there's a gap there because we know that that connects. Nobody really cares about that. What we care about is what's going on with the other utilities. Are we hitting anything else? You can see that this water line here that looked, because of my video card, like it was hitting here, is not actually hitting. Okay, and if I look down the line here, I'm crossing my reclaimed, I'm way above it. That's actually a deep line. This is an electric line going across. That line there is going above. And these are real flexible dry utilities anyway for the small electric stuff, so that's okay. Then as I get into my vault over here, let me, whoops. That was a little too much orbiting at once. Okay, so I'm looking at this water crossing right here. Let's see what's going on. It looks like they hit. Okay, so I'm going to have to get real detailed on this one. So what I'm going to do is isolate the layers of the solids. That layer and that layer, because using my video card works a little better when these are isolated. Plus the orbit works much faster. Okay, and let's see what's going on. Are they really hitting or not? And they are. That's too close. We need about a foot clearance on that. Yeah, that's too close. You can see that there's a little, if you do it just right, you can see that there's slight clearance between there, but that's no good. That doesn't work. So this conduit has to come down, either has to come up or it has to come down. In our case here, it's got to go below that. So I'm going to add in a portion of this that goes under, and this will be interesting to see if this works with the dry utilities going on. But this is how I would do it. So I'm going to get this back to plan view. I'm going to pause while I do that. Okay, so here we are. See if I can get it to go to wireframe. Boy, it does not want to let me go to wireframe here. I might just reopen this drawing. Let me pause this. Okay. Huh. This is taxiing my video card recording this with that mode on, so I turned it off. Okay, so we've got a deal where there's an invert of a pipe here, and I've got this guy. So I want to put 1 foot clearance between the top of this conduit and here. So how do I do that? I'm going to edit this guy. You can see I've got a PVI way over here and one way over here, but I need to put a PVI directly below here to get 1 foot clearance. And so I pick a point to add it, and I'm going to snap to the bottom of the water line and say 0 vertical curve. So that's that's the elevation of the invert, but I actually need it 1 foot lower. So I'm going to edit that. And it's 248.53, so it's going to be 247.5, let's say. Who cares about the hundreds? I'm going to tell it to stop asking me vertical curve lengths. Okay. So now I've got 1 point, so it's like a kink in this thing. And that's not reality. When you do conduits, it's going to sweep down and it needs a sort of a flat spot. This is going at a skew. So I'm going to actually move this guy over to, I don't know, somewhere around here. And then I'm going to add another one over here at the same elevation. And you know what? I've already got one there, too close. So I'm going to delete out the one I just added, and I'm going to edit this guy to 247.5. Alright, so return to finish, and now I added 2 PVI, so this is going to dive down and connect here, and this is going to dive down. Sometimes you got to be careful. If there's not a PVI real close, you need to add another one, which is at or on the conduit backbone already. So when we rotate this thing, this is what we just accomplished. And I don't know if I like this because I pulled it down pretty far. I think I'm going to undo that. Okay, so I'm back to my previous design. Good. So in this case, I'm gonna do what I mentioned. I'm gonna add a break so I can dive down. I'm gonna add that over, I don't know, somewhere over here. So I'm just gonna pick and snap to the backbone, so that puts a break in there, even though it's currently sort of the slopes on both sides are the same. I'm gonna need that because when it comes down, I'm going to need it to start its dive right there. So then I'm going to add a point here, snap to the waterline invert, edit that, 248 to 47.5, move it over to here. I'm going to edit this one to match to 47.5 and return to finish. And let's take a look at what that looks like in 3D again. Pretty ugly, huh? little bump there. But you can see what happened here. I took the profile that used to go straight through here, told it to hold that point, add a point here and here that's 1 foot below, and this was already a PVI, so I just let that one stay. And now it goes underneath. Again, looking at this ain't reality, so I'm not happy with this. So I'm going to edit this guy. Okay, I'm going to edit. I messed up the snap. Let me do that again. Okay, edit. I type E, by the way, for edit. Picking nearest, find the closest PVI, which is that guy, and it gives me the default number that's already there. I'm going to lower that by a foot. So basically at 250, I'm going to say 249. Okay, so it's a little less kinked. I think the utility companies are going to laugh at me on this and go, no, that's going to come through. So I'm just going to delete that point. D for delete. Again, pick nearest. Yep. Okay, back to where I was. So I tried an alternative. You know, kind of ridiculous. Didn't. I think it would just confuse everybody to have that in there. So I took it out. So now I can see I'm coming out of this joint trench, coming down, and again, this isn't reality either. There's no grade breaks in conduit. This is going to have to be a smooth sweep that comes up here. But I'm going to leave it like that for comment when people look at it, and they can kind of decide. Dry utility plans don't have profiles usually, so. But they do need to know that if there's a pipe here, here's the crossing under, and I want to model it to try to reflect what the thinking was on that when we did it. So that gives you an idea of how we model this stuff, what we really care about when we're modeling, all the utilities around it. You notice once, the only thing that I did on this is I said I want 30 inches of cover from the surface at the very beginning. After that, this thing's not what I would call rule-based at all. I'm driving the thing. I'm telling it where I want. A new grade break's introduced, all that. And when I'm done, all I can see is the design that I left it with. I don't necessarily know that it was 30 inches of cover and so on. But all that stuff is easy to test, and it's just not that important. You don't want your design changing because some surface changes in the future. It's just, that messes everything up because I've got all kinds of custom tweaks done here. If I want to modify this again, it's real easy to just say, hey, delete out the PVIs from here to here, recut the surface from here to here, and I can bring that back in. I've got a lot of options like that, but I don't want the thing doing it on its own. I need control of it, and any other way than that, it's just things kind of get missed is the real problem. So hopefully that was a little educational, and I'll stop there. Thanks.